Mom's baby goes missing. Then she spots stray dog with baby hanging from mouth and screams. When a child goes missing, it can cause a huge panic throughout the entire community. As a parent, your children are absolutely everything to you, and when something bad happens to them, it's a heartbreaking experience. There are countless stories all over the place about missing kids and infants never being seen again. When you're forced into this situation, you can't help but think that you'll never see your child again. Or if you do end up seeing your child again, you'll soon wish you hadn't, and that last happy memory of them was still the most recent one in your mind. In the case of the woman in this story, it's safe to say that she wishes she didn't have to see what she was forced to witness. A woman in Oman wasn't quite ready to be a parent. She was in a secret relationship when she fell pregnant. Being from a very strict and conservative Oman family, the choice was to either have the baby while not being married and be blacklisted from her family, marry the man she was with and still run the risk of being blacklisted from her family if they didn't approve of her man, or just find a way to get rid of the baby and forget this whole ordeal ever happened, while still keeping it a secret from her family. Needless to say, she chose to keep the whole thing a secret and erase any and all evidence of her secret relationship. One thing that many people don't know about the country of Oman is that there are a ton of stray dogs that roam around towns and cities that don't have homes or reliable ways to get meals when they need them. One day, a particular stray dog was in dire need for a meal. Sometimes kind strangers offer food to the animals because they feel bad, but most of the time there isn't enough for all the dogs to get lucky enough. The dog in this story was, unfortunately, one of those dogs that weren't lucky enough to get a meal that way. While rummaging through trash cans, the dog came across something it had probably never seen before. Inside the trash can was a newborn baby, alive and well, with the umbilical cord still attached to it. It was the baby that was the result of a secret relationship the woman earlier in the story had. And this is what she chose to do with the baby. The dog took one look at the baby and did what any hungry animal would do. It took it out of the trash can and carried it away in its mouth. But rather than do the unthinkable, the dog went on to do something that no one could have ever predicted. The dog walked around with the baby and tried to alert many people it saw passing by. None of the people cared enough to stop the dog or were either too afraid to approach it due to it carrying a baby. But the dog didn't stop there. Instead, it went to several houses where it scratched and barked at the front doors of the houses. After a few failed attempts, the dog's efforts finally paid off and someone came to answer the door. But this is where things get a lot more complicated than they originally were. An older woman ended up answering the door. She saw the dog with the baby in his mouth and was quite shocked. She called her daughter over and asked her to come to take a look at what was at the front door. When the daughter got to the front door, she too was surprised, but then she took a closer look at the baby's face and screamed. The older woman's daughter was the mother who had the secret relationship. The dog essentially brought what she was desperately trying to hide right back to her. The older woman was understandably a little shocked at her daughter's reaction, but the daughter played it off as her just being so surprised as to what the dog had brought them. If she revealed the true reason why, her family would cut all ties with her, and that's not something anyone who values their family would want. Despite the dog being extremely hungry and carrying the newborn in its mouth, the infant didn't appear to have any serious injuries. The mom and daughter gave the dog a big plate of food, then took the newborn to the hospital just to be on the safe side. Remarkably, the only thing wrong with the newborn was that it was a little bit dehydrated, but otherwise in good health. Rather than have the poor miracle infant have to go through foster and adoption process, the older woman decided she would keep the baby and raise it as her own. Since the way it came into her life was so bizarre, she figured it must be a sign from God if the newborn went through all of that and ended up being carried by a stray dog to her front door.